What causes gallstones? Hello and welcome to the channel, Gallstones. You've probably heard of them. You may know someone who's had them. You might even have some right now, quietly lurking, performing geological cosplay inside your gallbladder. Many people don't discover theirs until a dramatic night in the emergency department when their upper abdomen decides to stage a rebellion. So, what actually are gallstones? Why do they form? Who gets them? And why does the human body even have a gallbladder in the first place? Let's talk about it. The gallbladder is a small, pear-shaped pouch attached to the underside of the liver. Its job is remarkably simple. It stores bile. Bile is a digestive fluid produced by the liver. Think of it as biochemical dish soap. It helps dissolve dietary fats so your intestines can absorb them. When you eat a fatty meal, the gallbladder squeezes and releases bile into the small intestine, and digestion proceeds smoothly. That's the design anyway, but like many well-intentioned design features in human biology, the gallbladder occasionally decides to form rocks, literal rocks. These are gallstones, solid particles that form from components of bile. The most common types are cholesterol stones and pigment stones. Cholesterol stones are the big hitters in Western countries. Pigment stones, made from bilirubin, show up more often in certain medical conditions. Now here's the fun twist. Most gallstones don't cause symptoms. You could be happily living your life, zooming around, eating croissants, drinking coffee, and meanwhile, your gallbladder is hoarding tiny stones like a geological dragon. We call these silent stones. And unless they cause trouble, we leave them alone. Gallbladders occasionally get bored and produce a bit of unnecessary drama, but many remain passive geology museums for years. So, what causes stones to form? The short answer is bile supersaturation and stagnation. The slightly longer answer is bile is made of cholesterol, bile salts, phospholipids, and bilirubin. If the proportions become unbalanced, particularly if there's too much cholesterol, the bile becomes supersaturated. This means cholesterol starts to precipitate out of solution and form crystals. Those crystals then stick to each other, and eventually you've got a stone, a sort of DIY craft project inside your abdomen. But bile composition alone isn't enough. You also need timing and stasis. Stones form more easily when the gallbladder doesn't empty properly. Think of stagnant water versus running water. Stagnation encourages sediments to settle and accumulate. The same principle applies to bile. So who's at risk? There's a classic medical joke that gallstones are associated with the 4 F's, female, 40, fertile, and fat. It's a very old mnemonic and deeply oversimplified, but it contains grains of truth. Women get gallstones more than men, partly due to estrogen's effects on bile composition. Pregnancy increases risk as well. Age increases risk. Higher body mass increases risk. Rapid weight loss raises risk too. Bariatric surgery patients often develop gallstones for this reason. Genetics play a role. Certain ethnic groups have very high prevalence, particularly in parts of Latin America and among Native American populations. And genetics are powerful. You can hydrate, eat kale, meditate, journal, do Pilates, and still get gallstones, because your ancestors passed down an enthusiastic bile-concentrating gallbladder. Diet plays a role, but not always in the way people think. High-fat diets can precipitate symptoms because they stimulate gallbladder contraction, but they don't necessarily cause the stones themselves. In fact, long periods of fasting or very low-fat diets can promote stone formation by preventing the gallbladder from emptying. It's a delicate balance. The gallbladder is like a houseplant. too much neglect and things go wrong. Too much activity and things also go wrong. Now, what happens when gallstones do cause symptoms? The most common scenario is biliary colic. A stone temporarily blocks the cystic duct. That's the tube connecting the gallbladder to the bile ducts. The gallbladder squeezes against the obstruction, which generates pain. If you've never experienced this pain, imagine a deep, squeezing ache in the right upper abdomen, often radiating to the back or shoulder. People often describe it as pressure, tightness, or someone shoving a fist up under my ribs. It can come in waves, and it often starts after a heavy meal. Unlike kidney stones, where patients pace and writhe around, people with biliary colic often lie very still. Movement makes abdominal pain worse. Between waves of pain, they may look relatively composed, and then they become very uncomposed when the pain returns. Biliary colic is uncomfortable, sometimes dramatic, but it's not an infection. When an infection does occur, we enter the world of acute cholecystitis, inflammation of the gallbladder. Here, patients look genuinely unwell. Fever enters the chat. The white blood cell count rises. The pain becomes constant rather than episodic. This is not a wait it out at home with chamomile tea situation. This is a please proceed to medical attention situation. Gallstones can also migrate beyond the gallbladder and block the common bile duct. This can lead to jaundice. It can also lead to pancreatitis because the pancreas shares a drainage duct with the bile system. Nothing quite says biology is chaotic neutral, like waking up one day with your gallbladder poking the pancreas into a full-blown inflammatory tantrum. So, how common are gallstones? Vary. In many countries, they're a leading reason for emergency abdominal surgery. The treatment for symptomatic gallstones is usually removal of the gallbladder, a cholecystectomy. The operation is typically done laparoscopically through small incisions, and most people recover well. The surprising part is that you can live without a gallbladder and digest food just fine. The liver still makes bile. It just drips continuously into the intestine instead of being stored and squeezed out in bursts. Some people notice mild changes in digestion, especially with very fatty meals, but most adapt without much issue. Patients often ask whether you can dissolve gallstones. Technically, yes, in very specific circumstances, using medications that alter bile composition. But it's slow, limited, and the stones often return once the medication stops. Shockwave lithotripsy, which works for kidney stones, has been tried for gallstones with limited success. The gallbladder, unlike the kidney, is not particularly cooperative with non-invasive rock blasting. So, can you prevent gallstones? Sort of. Maintaining a healthy weight helps. Avoiding rapid crash dieting helps. Eating a balanced diet with some fat so the gallbladder actually empties helps. Staying physically active helps. But many cases are genetic, hormonal, or purely biochemical. Someone can be fit, lean, hydrated, and nutritionally virtuous and still end up in emergency surgery at 2 a.m. after a celebratory birthday fondue. An interesting footnote is that gallstones appear to be a modern problem, but archaeological evidence suggests ancient humans had them too. We have found gallstones in Egyptian mummies. So while modern diets and sedentary lifestyles exacerbate the issue, the gallbladder has been generating rocks for thousands of years. Even in antiquity, the bile system appears to have been mildly cursed. The silent stone phenomenon is also interesting. For every person writhing in pain in a hospital bed, there are 3 others carrying stones quietly. They may never know. They may live long, happy, stone-bearing lives. The lesson is that not every anatomical quirk needs intervention. So, to summarize the earlier question, what causes gallstones? Bile composition, bile stasis, genetics, hormones, metabolism, weight, diet, age, and luck. It's rarely one thing, it's an orchestra of physiology, and occasionally the percussion section decides to throw rocks. In the end, the gallbladder remains one of those charmingly unnecessary organs, useful but not essential, hardworking but occasionally dramatic, and perfectly capable of turning digestive chemistry into geology. If yours has betrayed you, know that you are not alone, and that modern surgical techniques are highly efficient at resolving gallbladder drama. And if yours has not betrayed you yet, may it continue its quiet bile handling duties without aspirations of stonecraft. Do you have a personal history with gallstones? If so, let's hear all about it in the comments. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear it. Like the video if you liked it. And do subscribe to the channel if you would love to hear more medical content. Ask a doc.